The text message arrived at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right in the middle of my quarterly budget review. Replacing you would take 5 minutes, David. Maybe less. My wife Sarah had sent it after I'd questioned why her sister Jessica was moving into our guest room for the third time this year. I stared at my phone screen, watching those words burn themselves into my retina like a brand. 23 years of marriage reduced to 5 minutes of replacement time. I'm David Mitchell, 41 years old, senior project manager at Consolidated Tech Solutions. I've spent the last 2 decades building networks, managing teams, and solving problems that would make most people's heads spin. But apparently, according to my wife, I'm as replaceable as a dead light bulb. The thing about being married to Sarah Hendricks Mitchell is that you never just marry her. You marry the entire Hendricks clan, with her sister Jessica leading the charge like some entitled general commanding an army of dysfunction. Jessica, 38, unemployed by choice, has made a career out of being everyone else's problem. She's the kind of person who orders the most expensive item on the menu when someone else is paying, then complains about the service. I closed my laptop and headed home early, my mind already working through the implications of that text message. The autumn air in our suburban Minneapolis neighborhood felt crisp against my face as I pulled into our driveway. The house looked the same as always: 2-story colonial, perfectly manicured lawn, the American dream wrapped in vinyl siding and mortgage payments. Inside, I found Sarah and Jessica huddled over Sarah's laptop at the kitchen island, whispering like conspirators. They looked up when I entered, their expressions shifting from secretive to defensive in milliseconds. "You're home early," Sarah said, closing the laptop with a snap. "Funny thing happened at work today," I replied, pulling out my phone. "I got this interesting message from my wife." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Oh God, here we go. Drama Queen David strikes again." "Jessica, I wasn't talking to you." I kept my voice level, but something in my tone made Sarah straighten up. "David, we need to talk about boundaries," Sarah said. "Jessica is family. She's going through a rough patch with the divorce, and she needs our support." "Her third rough patch this year?" I set my phone on the counter. "The rough patch where she maxed out your credit card? Or the rough patch where she borrowed your car and returned it with a dented bumper and an empty gas tank?" "That's not fair," Jessica interjected. "You don't understand what I'm going through." "You're right. I don't understand. I don't understand how a grown woman with a college degree can't hold a job for more than 6 months. I don't understand how someone can go through 3 marriages and somehow it's never their fault. And I really don't understand how my wife can think I'm replaceable in 5 minutes." Sarah's face flushed red. "I said that because you're being unreasonable. Jessica needs help, and as her sister, I'm going to provide it. With my money, in my house, using my resources." I pulled out a kitchen chair and sat down. "Let me ask you something, Sarah. When was the last time Jessica contributed anything to this household besides drama and debt?" "She helps with cooking and cleaning," Sarah said weakly. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Yesterday I came home to find her eating takeout Chinese food while our dirty dishes sat in the sink. The day before that, she used all the hot water for a 40-minute shower, then complained that our water pressure sucks." Jessica stood up, her chair scraping against the tile floor. "I don't have to listen to this. Sarah, I told you he was toxic. This is exactly the kind of controlling behavior that destroyed my marriages." "Controlling?" I felt something cold settle in my chest. "I work 50 hours a week to pay for this house, the cars, the insurance, the groceries, and everything else that keeps this family afloat. Asking for basic respect and consideration isn't controlling. It's called being an adult. You see?" Jessica turned to Sarah. "This is what I was talking about. He's trying to isolate you from your family. It's classic emotional abuse." The word abuse hung in the air like poison gas. I looked at my wife, waiting for her to defend me, to tell her sister she was out of line. Instead, Sarah nodded slowly. She's right, David. You have been trying to control who I spend time with and how I spend my money. Your money? I stood up so fast, my chair nearly tipped over. Sarah, you work part-time at a yoga studio. Your entire annual income wouldn't cover our mortgage payments for 3 months. There it is, Jessica said triumphantly. Financial abuse, using money as a weapon to control your wife. I stared at both of them, feeling like I'd stepped into an alternate reality. This is insane. I'm not abusing anyone. I'm trying to have a rational conversation about boundaries and fiscal responsibility. Rational? Sarah's voice rose. You call this rational? You're attacking my sister and making her feel unwelcome in our home. Our home that I pay for, I said quietly. See? Jessica pointed at me like I'd just proven her case. Everything comes back to money and control with him. Sarah, you deserve better than this. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. When had she become this person? When had the woman I married, the one who used to laugh at Jessica's dramatics, become her sister's willing accomplice? Fine, I said. Jessica can stay. But she pays rent, she contributes to groceries, and she cleans up after herself. Those are my terms. Terms? Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. You don't get to set terms for my family. I get to set terms for my house. Our house, she corrected. My name on the mortgage. My credit score that qualified us for the loan. My income that makes the payments. I picked up my keys from the counter. But apparently I'm replaceable in 5 minutes, so maybe those details don't matter. I walked toward the door, but Jessica's voice stopped me. Go ahead. Run away. That's what cowards do when they can't control the situation anymore. I turned around slowly. What did you just call me? You heard me. Coward. Sarah told me how you backed down from that promotion because you were scared of the responsibility. How you never stand up to your boss when he dumps extra work on you. You're weak, David. Sarah needs a real man, not some middle management pushover. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking on the wall, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Sarah, I said without taking my eyes off Jessica. Did you really tell her about the promotion? My wife's silence was answer enough. That promotion would have meant traveling 3 weeks out of every month. I turned it down because I wanted to be home with my wife, because I thought my marriage was more important than a bigger paycheck. I looked at Sarah now. I guess I was wrong about that too. David, that's not... No, it's fine, really. I'm learning a lot about myself today. I'm replaceable, I'm controlling, I'm abusive, and I'm a coward. Anything else you two want to add to the list? Jessica smiled. Actually, yes. You're also boring. Sarah tells me you haven't taken her anywhere fun in years. When was the last time you surprised her? When was the last time you made her feel special? I felt something break inside my chest. Sarah, is that how you feel? My wife looked down at her hands. Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if I'd made different choices. Different choices. I repeated the words slowly. You mean a different husband? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I headed for the door again. I'm going for a drive. When I get back, I want Jessica out of my house. It's not just your house, Sarah called after me. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. You're right. It's not. It's our house. But apparently, I'm not part of our anymore. So maybe it's time I started acting like it. I drove around for 3 hours, my mind racing through 23 years of marriage. When had things gone so wrong? When had Sarah stopped being my partner and started being Jessica's co-conspirator? My phone buzzed constantly with text messages, but I ignored them. I needed time to think, to process what had just happened. The woman I'd married, the one who used to roll her eyes at Jessica's dramatics, had just sat there while her sister called me a coward and questioned my worth as a husband. When I finally returned home, Jessica's car was still in the driveway. I sat in my truck for a long moment, staring at the house I'd worked so hard to provide. The lights were on in the kitchen, and I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. They were probably planning their next attack, finding new ways to tear me down. I walked in to find them exactly where I'd left them, huddled over Sarah's laptop. This time, they didn't bother looking up. "I thought I made myself clear about Jessica leaving," I said. "And I thought I made myself clear that you don't get to dictate who stays in this house," Sarah replied without lifting her eyes from the screen. "What are you two doing?" "None of your business," Jessica said. I walked around the island to see the laptop screen. They were looking at apartment listings. "Planning your move, Jessica? Good. It's about time." Sarah slammed the laptop shut. "They're not for Jessica. They're for me." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "I'm done, David. I'm done with your controlling behavior, your financial manipulation, and your constant attacks on my family." Sarah stood up, her chin raised defiantly. "I want a separation." "A separation." I sat down heavily. "Because I asked your unemployed sister to contribute to the household?" "Because you're toxic," Jessica said. "Sarah deserves better than a man who uses money to control her and isolates her from her family." I looked at my wife. "Is that really what you think? That I'm toxic?" "I think we've grown apart. I think we want different things. And I think Jessica is right about the controlling behavior." "Give me an example. One specific example of how I've controlled you." Sarah and Jessica exchanged glances. "You monitor our spending," Sarah said. "I check our bank statements because I'm responsible for paying the bills. That's called financial management, not control. You complain when I want to help my family. I complain when your family takes advantage of us financially and emotionally. There's a difference. You never want to go out or do anything fun. I work 10-hour days and commute 90 minutes round trip. When I get home, I'm tired. But I've never stopped you from going out with friends or pursuing your hobbies." Jessica leaned forward. "See how he has an excuse for everything? That's classic gaslighting." I stared at her. "Do you even know what gaslighting means? Making someone question their reality through manipulation and lies." "Right. So when you told Sarah that I backed down from a promotion because I was scared, and I explained that I turned it down to spend more time with my wife, who was gaslighting whom?" Jessica's face flushed, but she didn't back down. "You're twisting things around. I'm stating facts, but apparently facts are toxic now." I turned to Sarah. "How long have you been planning this separation?" "It's not something I planned. It's something I realized I needed after talking to Jessica. After Jessica convinced you that your husband of 23 years is abusive because he expects your sister to act like an adult." "It's not just about Jessica," Sarah said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it? 3 months ago, before Jessica's latest crisis, we were fine. We went to dinner for our anniversary. We talked about taking a vacation to Ireland next year. We made love twice a week and laughed at stupid movies on Netflix. What changed, Sarah? What changed besides your sister moving in and poisoning you against me?" "Jessica didn't poison me against anything. She opened my eyes." "To what?" "To the fact that I've been settling. That I deserve better than a boring, controlling husband who treats my family like garbage." The words hung in the air between us like a death sentence. I felt something fundamental shift inside me, like a bridge burning behind me. "Okay," I said quietly. "Okay what?" Sarah asked. "Okay, you want better than me. I understand." I stood up and walked to the kitchen drawer where we kept important papers. "You want a separation? Fine. But we're going to do this properly." I pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "What are you doing?" Jessica asked. "Making a list. If Sarah wants to separate from her boring, controlling husband, she needs to understand what that means financially." I kept writing. "Mortgage payment, $1,500 a month, property taxes, $400, insurance, $200. Utilities average $350. That's $24.50 a month just for housing. David, stop, Sarah said. Car payments, $400 for both vehicles. Insurance, $250. Gas and maintenance, let's call it $300. That's another $950 a month for transportation. I looked up at her. Your income from the yoga studio is what? About $800 a month? You're being ridiculous. Am I? You want independence from your controlling husband? Great. Independence means paying your own bills. I went back to writing. Groceries, $500 a month. Health insurance, $600. Cell phones, internet, streaming services, another $200. We're up to $4,700 a month in basic expenses. Jessica stood up. Sarah, you don't have to listen to this. Actually, she does. Because this is reality. This is what it costs to maintain the lifestyle she's grown accustomed to. I tore the sheet off the pad and handed it to Sarah. Your sister thinks I use money as a weapon? She's wrong. Money isn't a weapon. It's a tool I've used to build a life for us. But if you don't want that life anymore, if you think you can do better, then prove it. Sarah stared at the paper. I can get a full-time job. Doing what? You have a degree in art history and 3 years of part-time experience teaching yoga. What kind of full-time job do you think you're qualified for that pays enough to cover these expenses? She doesn't need to cover all the expenses, Jessica said. You'll pay alimony and child support. I laughed. Child support? We don't have children, Jessica. Sarah had 3 miscarriages, and we decided not to keep trying. And alimony? In Minnesota, alimony is based on need and the length of the marriage. Sarah is a healthy 39-year-old woman with no disabilities preventing her from working. A judge might award temporary support while she gets on her feet, but it won't be enough to maintain this lifestyle. Sarah's face had gone pale. I didn't realize. Of course you didn't, because you've never had to think about money. You've never had to worry about making ends meet, or keeping the lights on, or having enough in the emergency fund for when the furnace breaks down. You just assumed it would always be there, like magic. That's not fair, she said. What's not fair is working 60 hours a week to support a household while being called controlling and abusive for expecting basic respect and consideration. I walked to the refrigerator and pulled out a beer. But you know what? Maybe Jessica is right. Maybe you do deserve better than me. I opened the beer and took a long drink. Maybe you deserve someone who'll let your sister live here rent-free forever. Someone who won't question it when she maxes out credit cards or borrows money she never pays back. Someone who thinks financial responsibility is toxic masculinity and asking for help with housework is domestic abuse. David, you're being sarcastic, Sarah said. Am I? Or am I being realistic for the first time in years? I took another drink. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. We're going to file for legal separation. You can keep the house until it sells, but you'll need to qualify for the mortgage on your own or find a co-signer. Jessica can stay as long as you want, but you'll be responsible for all the bills. You can't just kick us out, Jessica said. I'm not kicking anyone out. I'm giving Sarah exactly what she asked for, independence from her controlling husband. I looked at my wife. You want to see what your life looks like without me? This is your chance. Where will you go? Sarah asked. I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll get an apartment downtown. Maybe I'll buy a condo. Hell, maybe I'll take that promotion I turned down and travel the country. The possibilities are endless when you're not tied down to someone who thinks you're replaceable. I finished my beer and headed for the stairs. David, wait, Sarah called after me. What? This isn't what I wanted. I paused on the bottom step. What did you want, Sarah? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you wanted to hurt me. You wanted to make me feel small and worthless and replaceable. Congratulations. Mission accomplished. I wanted you to fight for me, she said quietly. Fight for you? Against what? Against your sister's lies? Against your own resentment? Against 23 years of marriage that apparently meant nothing to you? I shook my head. I can't fight an enemy I can't see, Sarah. I can't defend against accusations that change every time I provide a reasonable response. You want me to fight for you? Tell me what I'm fighting against. She looked at Jessica, then back at me. I don't know. That's the problem. You don't know what you want, but you know you don't want me. So I'm removing myself from the equation. Problem solved. I went upstairs and started packing. 23 years of marriage, and it fit into 2 suitcases and a duffel bag. I could hear them talking downstairs, their voices rising and falling in heated discussion, probably planning their next move, figuring out how to spin this as my fault. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Mike Peterson. Hey, want to grab beers tomorrow night? Karen's at her book club. I typed back, can't. Getting separated. Need a place to crash for a few days. The phone rang immediately. What the hell happened? Mike asked. Long story, short version. Sarah's sister convinced her I'm abusive and controlling because I asked for basic respect and financial responsibility. Jessica? The one who's been married 3 times? That's the one. Jesus, Dave. I'm sorry. You can stay with us as long as you need. Thanks, man. I'll be over in an hour. I hung up and finished packing. As I carried my bags downstairs, Sarah and Jessica stopped talking and watched me. This is really what you want? Sarah asked. It's what you want. I'm just making it easier for you. I paused at the door. Oh, and Sarah? You might want to call the utility companies tomorrow and get the accounts transferred to your name. The electric bill is due on the 15th. David, please. Can't we talk about this? We did talk about it. You told me I was replaceable, controlling, abusive, boring, and a coward. Jessica told me I was toxic and weak. What else is there to discuss? I didn't mean, yes, you did. You meant every word. And you know what? Maybe you were right. Maybe I have been too accommodating. Maybe I should have put my foot down years ago instead of enabling Jessica's dysfunction. Maybe I should have fought harder for respect in my own home. I opened the door, then turned back one last time. But here's the thing, Sarah. You can't have it both ways. You can't call me controlling when I set boundaries, and then complain that I don't fight for you when I respect your decision to leave. You can't call me financially abusive for managing our money responsibly, and then expect me to subsidize your independence. And you definitely can't call me replaceable and then act surprised when I walk away. Where does this leave us? She asked. It leaves you with exactly what you asked for. A life without your boring, controlling husband. I picked up my bags. Enjoy your freedom, Sarah. I hope it's everything you dreamed it would be. I walked out into the cool night air, loaded my truck, and drove to Mike's house. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Mike and his wife Karen were waiting for me when I arrived. They helped me carry my bags to their guest room. Then we sat in their kitchen while I told them the whole story. She actually said you were replaceable? Karen asked, her voice incredulous. 5 minutes or less, according to the text message. And Jessica called you a coward? Among other things. Apparently I'm also toxic, controlling, financially abusive, and boring. Mike shook his head. Dave, you're one of the most decent guys I know. You work your ass off, you've never cheated, you don't drink too much or gamble or any of the stupid stuff that destroys marriages. If Sarah can't see that, it's her loss. The thing is, I keep wondering if they're right. Maybe I have been controlling. Maybe I should have been more supportive of Jessica. Bullshit, Karen said firmly. I've watched Jessica manipulate Sarah for years. Remember when she convinced Sarah to co-sign for that car loan? Or when she borrowed $5,000 for her business venture that never materialized? You've been more patient with that woman than any reasonable person should be. Karen's right, Mike added. Jessica has been poisoned from day one. I'm just sorry it took Sarah this long to show her true colors. I spent the next 3 days at Mike and Karen's house, going to work and pretending everything was normal. Sarah called twice, but I didn't answer. She left voicemails asking me to come home so we could talk, but I deleted them without listening to the whole messages. On Thursday evening, I met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Chen. She was a small, sharp woman in her 50s who listened to my story without interruption. "How long has the sister been living with you?" she asked. "On and off for 3 years. This latest stint has been 4 months. And your wife doesn't work full-time?" "Part-time at a yoga studio, maybe 20 hours a week." "Any children?" "No. We tried for several years, but it didn't happen." Patricia made notes on her legal pad. "Minnesota is a no-fault divorce state, which means we don't need to prove wrongdoing. But the court will consider each spouse's earning capacity when dividing assets and determining support." "What does that mean for me?" "It means you'll likely keep most of your retirement accounts and investments since they were funded primarily by your income. The house will probably be sold and the proceeds split unless your wife can qualify to refinance the mortgage on her own." "She can't. She doesn't make enough money." "Then the house sells. As for spousal support, given the length of your marriage and the disparity in income, you might be ordered to pay temporary maintenance while she gets on her feet. But it won't be permanent, and it won't be enough to maintain her current lifestyle." I signed the retainer agreement and authorized Patricia to file the paperwork. As I drove back to Mike's house, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. 23 years of marriage ending in a lawyer's office. That night, Sarah called again. This time, I answered. "David, thank God, I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy, meeting with lawyers, looking for an apartment, adjusting to my new life as a replaceable husband. Please don't be like this. I made a mistake. I was angry, and I said things I didn't mean." "Which things didn't you mean? That I'm controlling? That I'm abusive? That you could replace me in 5 minutes? Or that you deserve better than me?" "All of it. I was upset about Jessica, and I took it out on you." "Where is Jessica now?" There was a pause. "She's still here." "Of course she is. Let me guess. She's been telling you how much better off you are without me, right? Helping you see all the ways I held you back?" "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that, Sarah. Jessica has been working to destroy our marriage since the day we met, and you finally gave her the ammunition she needed." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When did you start thinking of me as controlling? When did you start resenting the fact that I work hard to provide for us? When did you start believing that asking for basic respect was financial abuse?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. It happened gradually. It happened because Jessica has been poisoning you against me for years, and you finally decided to listen to her instead of trusting your own husband. David, please come home. We can work this out." "Can we? Because last time I was home, you told me you wanted a separation. You said you were done with my toxic, controlling behavior. What's changed?" I realized I made a mistake. "What kind of mistake? The kind where you didn't mean what you said, or the kind where you meant it but didn't like the consequences?" Another pause. "I didn't realize how much you do for us, how much you contribute." "Ah, so you tried to pay the bills and realized you can't afford the house without me. It's not just about money, isn't it? Because that's what it sounds like. You thought you could replace me in 5 minutes, but it turns out replacing my income is a little harder than you expected." "I miss you," she said quietly. "You miss my paycheck. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been supporting your husband when your sister attacked him. Fair would have been recognizing that Jessica is a manipulative parasite who's been bleeding us dry for years. Fair would have been choosing your marriage over your sister's drama. I know I handled it badly." "You didn't handle it badly, Sarah. You chose sides and you didn't choose mine." "I'm choosing you now." "No, you're not. You're choosing financial security. You're choosing the comfortable lifestyle I provide. But you're not choosing me. Because choosing me would mean telling Jessica to leave. It would mean acknowledging that I was right about her. It would mean admitting that you let her manipulate you into attacking your own husband. I can't just kick Jessica out. She has nowhere to go." There it is. Even now, even after everything that's happened, you're still choosing her over me. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Jessica or me, Sarah. You can't have both. Why are you making me choose? I'm not making you do anything. I'm just clarifying the situation. Jessica has made it clear that she thinks I'm toxic and abusive. She's convinced you that I'm controlling and financially manipulative. She believes you deserve better than me. How exactly do you think the three of us are going to live together happily ever after? Sarah started crying. I don't know what to do. You do know. You just don't want to do it, because it means admitting you were wrong. If I ask Jessica to leave, will you come home? It means, I said, and I heard how steady my voice had become, how much it no longer reached for her comfort, that there are consequences now, and they're not negotiable. Sarah's breathing hitched on the other end of the line, a small sound that used to pull me toward her, used to make me soften my edges and explain myself until she felt safe again. This time, it only made me tired. Not cruel tired, not vindictive tired, but the kind of tired you get when you finally realize you've been doing all the emotional labor in a relationship and calling it love. David, she whispered, and my name sounded like an attempt to rewind time. I don't understand why you're being like this. I stared at the kitchen counter, at the faint ring left by a mug I hadn't moved in hours, and I let myself remember the scene she wanted me to forget. Jessica's smirk, Sarah's silence, the way she'd looked at me like I was a line item, something she could replace if the cost-benefit analysis shifted. You do understand, I said. You just don't like the version of the story where your choices matter. She sniffed, and I could picture her wiping at her cheeks, trying to summon the kind of tears that made people rush to reassure her, trying to restore the old power dynamic where her sadness automatically made me the villain for standing my ground. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I am. I shouldn't have let Jessica talk to you like that. I shouldn't have said you were replaceable. I was angry. You were honest, I corrected. Anger doesn't invent new beliefs, Sarah. It reveals the ones you already had. The silence thickened. Then she spoke again, voice sharper now, the desperation starting to curdle into frustration. So what? You're just going to throw everything away because of one fight. Years. Everything we built. I almost laughed, but it came out as a breath through my nose. One fight, I repeated. That's how you're framing it. It was a bad night, she insisted. Jessica got in my head. She's been stressed. You know how she gets. And you know how you get, I said. You get quiet when someone disrespects me, and loud when I ask you to stop. Sarah's voice rose, brittle with panic. That's not fair. It's accurate, I replied, and I could feel the calm in my chest like a locked door. Fair would have been you stopping her in the moment. Fair would have been you saying, "Don't talk about my husband like that." Fair would have been you choosing partnership over performance. More crying. But now, there was something else mixed in, the fear that her usual tools weren't working, the dawning realization that she couldn't cry her way back to the version of me who still believed in second chances, without consequences. Okay, she said suddenly, swallowing hard. Okay, tell me what you want. I'll do it. I'll tell Jessica to back off. I'll apologize to you in front of her. I'll go to therapy. Whatever you want. There it was again. The negotiation. The bargaining. Not because she understood, but because she wanted the discomfort to stop. That's not how this works, Sarah, I said. You can't negotiate your way out of this. You can't treat your marriage like a business deal where you make concessions to get what you want. Then what do you want from me? She demanded, voice cracking with frustration. If you're not giving me a list, what am I supposed to do? I leaned against the counter, eyes closing briefly, feeling the heavy truth settle into place. I want you to want me more than you want your sister's approval, I said. I want you to defend me when people attack my character. I want you to be my partner instead of my adversary. But most of all, I want you to want those things because they're right, not because you're afraid of losing your comfortable lifestyle. I do want those things, she said immediately, too fast, like a reflex. Do you? I asked, and I let the question hang there like a weight, because 3 days ago you told me I was replaceable. You sat there while your sister called me a coward and questioned my worth as a husband. You threatened to leave me because I asked for basic respect in my own home. That's not the behavior of someone who wants to be my partner. The line went quiet except for her crying, softer now, the kind of crying that didn't sound strategic anymore, the kind that sounded like something breaking. Sarah, I said, and my voice softened just slightly. Not because I was relenting, but because I didn't want to be cruel for sport. I need you to understand something. The man you married, the one who turned down promotions to spend more time with you, the one who worked overtime to pay for your sister's emergencies, the one who never questioned your spending or your choices or your family, that man is gone. You and Jessica killed him with your accusations and your disrespect and your casual cruelty. David, please, she choked. I'm not the same person I was a week ago, I continued. I'm not going to come crawling back just because you realized you can't afford the mortgage without me. I'm not going to pretend that nothing happened, that you didn't reveal exactly what you think of me and our marriage. What does that mean? She asked, small and frightened now, like a child who senses punishment but doesn't understand why. It means, I said, choosing every word like I was placing stones across a river, that I'm done being the stabilizer for a life where I'm treated like an accessory. It means I'm done paying for respect with my silence. It means I'm done competing with Jessica for a place in my own marriage. She inhaled shakily. So you're leaving me. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was both simpler and harder than that. I wasn't leaving her out of rage. I wasn't storming out to teach her a lesson. I was stepping away because the ground beneath our relationship had finally cracked enough for me to see what it was made of. I'm stepping back, I said. I'm putting distance between us, and I'm letting the legal process move forward because right now, paper is the only thing you seem to respect. That's not true, she whispered. Then prove it, I said. Not with promises, not with crying, not with sudden therapy offers that you'll abandon when the fear fades. How? She asked, and the question sounded sincere, which made it hurt more. You start by telling the truth, I said. To yourself, to Jessica, to whoever you've been feeding this story to. You tell them you crossed a line. You tell them I didn't abuse you. You tell them you humiliated me and you expected me to swallow it. Silence again, heavier. I could practically hear her mind racing, calculating the social cost, the humiliation of admitting fault, the risk of losing face in front of her sister. That calculation, that pause, told me everything I needed to know. You can't, I said quietly, not accusing, just stating. You can't do it. I don't know what to say, she whispered. I know, I replied, and for the first time my voice carried something like grief. And that's why this is happening. She started to sob again, louder now, and I listened for a few seconds, not because I enjoyed it, but because I needed to be sure I wasn't shutting down a genuine realization. But the sobs didn't turn into accountability. They turned into pleading. David, please, she begged. Don't do this. We can fix it. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked around the kitchen, at the home we'd built, the home that suddenly felt like a stage set for a marriage that only existed when it benefited her. I thought about the court papers that would arrive, the narrative Kevin would craft, the way she would let other people define me if it meant she didn't have to admit she was wrong. I believe you think you'll do whatever it takes, I said, and my tone was calm, almost gentle. But you mean whatever it takes to keep what you have, not whatever it takes to become the partner I deserved. She tried to speak, but no words came. So here's what it means, I said finally, and the sentence felt like a door closing, slow and heavy. It means I'm not waiting for you to choose me anymore. I'm choosing myself. And if you ever look back and wonder when your marriage ended, it wasn't when the papers arrived, Sarah. It ended the moment you let someone call me worthless and you didn't correct them. The crying on the line turned into a thin, quiet sound, like she was running out of air. Goodbye, I said. Not as a punishment, but as a boundary, and I ended the call before she could find another angle, another bargain, another way to make me responsible for her feelings. I stood there with the phone in my hand, listening to the sudden silence in the kitchen, and I realized my heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't bracing for her reaction. I was simply done. And that, more than anything, terrified her. It means the divorce papers will be served tomorrow. It means the house goes on the market next week. And it means you and Jessica have about 30 days to figure out your next move. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. You wanted to see what your life looked like without your boring, controlling husband? You're about to find out. I hung up and turned off my phone. Mike found me sitting on his back porch an hour later, staring at the stars. Rough conversation? He asked, handing me a beer. She wants to reconcile. That's good, right? She wants to reconcile because she can't afford the house without me. Jessica is still there, still poisoning her against me, still playing the victim. Nothing has actually changed, except Sarah's bank account balance. Mike sat down beside me. So what are you going to do? Exactly what I told her. Divorce, sell the house, start over. You sure about that? 23 years is a long time to throw away. I'm not throwing it away, Mike. Sarah already did that when she chose Jessica over me. I'm just making it official. The next morning, Patricia called to confirm that the divorce papers had been served. Sarah called me 6 times, but I didn't answer. She left increasingly desperate voicemails, begging me to reconsider, promising that things would be different. That evening, I drove to the house to pick up more of my belongings. Sarah's car was in the driveway, but Jessica's was gone. I found Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by bills and bank statements. Where's Jessica? I asked. She left this morning. She said I was choosing you over her, and she couldn't watch me make such a terrible mistake. Convenient timing, right after you realized you couldn't pay the bills without me. Sarah looked up, her eyes red from crying. I know you don't believe me, but I asked her to leave before the money became an issue. When? Yesterday, after we talked. I told her she had to find somewhere else to stay. And what did she say? She said I was making the biggest mistake of my life. She said you were manipulating me with money and fear, and that I'd regret choosing you over family. I sat down across from her. Do you believe her? I don't know what to believe anymore. 3 months ago, I thought we were happy. I thought you were a good husband and Jessica was just going through a rough patch. Now I don't know who's telling the truth or who's manipulating whom. Sarah, I need you to think back to before Jessica moved in. Were you unhappy with our marriage? She considered the question carefully. No, I mean we had our issues, but I wasn't unhappy. What issues? I sometimes felt like we were in a rut, like we did the same things every week and never tried anything new. Did you ever tell me you wanted to try new things? Not directly. I guess I hoped you'd just know. I'm not a mind reader, Sarah. If you wanted to go somewhere or do something different, all you had to do was ask. I know. I realize that now. What else? Sometimes I felt like you cared more about work than about me. Give me an example. When you worked late or brought work home on weekends. I worked late to earn the money that pays for this house and everything in it. I brought work home because I'm salary, not hourly, and the projects don't stop just because it's Friday at 5 o'clock. I understand that now. What changed your perspective? Sarah gestured at the bills spread across the table. trying to figure out how to pay for everything on my yoga instructor salary. I had no idea how expensive our life was. So, you weren't really unhappy with me. You were unhappy with your life, and Jessica convinced you that I was the reason for your unhappiness. I think so, yes. And now that Jessica is gone, you realize she was wrong. I realize a lot of things. I realize that I took you for granted. I realize that I let my sister manipulate me into attacking you. And I realize that I may have destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too stupid to see what was happening. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. She seemed smaller somehow, diminished. The confident woman who had demanded a separation was gone, replaced by someone who looked lost and scared. Sarah, I need you to understand something. Even if I wanted to reconcile, and I'm not saying I do, it would take years to rebuild the trust you destroyed. You didn't just hurt my feelings or make me angry. You made me question everything about our relationship and my worth as a husband. I know. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Are you? Because it would mean admitting that you were completely wrong about me. It would mean acknowledging that Jessica is toxic and cutting her out of your life permanently. It would mean going to marriage counseling and doing the hard work of rebuilding our relationship from the ground up. Yes, I'll do all of that. And what happens the next time Jessica has a crisis? What happens when she calls crying about her latest divorce or job loss or financial disaster? Are you going to choose me over her? Yes. Even if she accuses me of being controlling again? Even if she says I'm isolating you from your family? Yes. I studied her face, looking for any sign of doubt or hesitation. Sarah, I want you to think very carefully before you answer this next question. If Jessica showed up here tomorrow, homeless and broke, would you let her move in again? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. That's what I thought. David, she's my sister. I can't just abandon her. And I'm your husband, or I was anyway, but apparently that doesn't mean as much to you as I thought it did. It means everything to me. I just don't know how to balance my loyalty to you with my obligation to my family. There's no balance, Sarah. There's no middle ground. Jessica has made it clear that she thinks I'm abusive and toxic. She's convinced you to see me the same way. How exactly do you think we're going to coexist? Maybe if we all sat down and talked? No, absolutely not. I'm not going to sit in my own home and defend myself against accusations of abuse from a woman who's never held a job for more than 6 months or maintained a relationship for more than 3 years. Then what do you want me to do? I want you to choose, me or Jessica, marriage or family. You can't have both. Sarah started crying again. Why are you making this so hard? I'm not making it hard, Sarah. It is hard. Marriage is hard. It requires sacrifice and compromise and putting your spouse's needs above everyone else's, including your family's. Jessica has never understood that, and apparently, neither do you. I do understand it now. Do you? Because you're still trying to find a way to keep Jessica in your life while getting me back. You're still looking for a compromise that lets you avoid making a hard choice. I love you both. Love isn't enough, Sarah. Love without loyalty is just a feeling. Love without commitment is just sentiment. And love without the willingness to fight for your relationship is just words. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the yard I'd spent countless weekends maintaining. You know what the worst part of all this is? It's not that you chose Jessica over me. It's that you made that choice so easily. You didn't agonize over it or lose sleep or struggle with the decision. You just accepted her version of reality and threw away 23 years of marriage without a second thought. That's not true. Isn't it? When Jessica told you I was controlling, did you defend me? When she said I was financially abusive, did you point out that I've never restricted your spending or hidden money from you? When she called me a coward, did you remind her that I work 60 hours a week to support this family? No. Sarah whispered. You didn't just fail to defend me, Sarah. You joined the attack. You told Jessica about the promotion I turned down to spend more time with you, and you let her use it as ammunition against me. You shared private details about our marriage with someone who was actively trying to destroy it. I didn't realize what she was doing, because you didn't want to realize it. It was easier to believe that I was the problem than to admit that your sister is a manipulative parasite who's been bleeding us dry for years. Sarah put her head in her hands. I've ruined everything, haven't I? Yeah, you have. Is there any way to fix it? I turned away from the window and looked at her. I don't know. I honestly don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if I can ever feel secure in our relationship, knowing that you'll throw me under the bus the moment someone convinces you that I'm the villain. I would never do it again. You said you'd never do it in the first place, but you did. You said you loved me and wanted to spend your life with me, but you were ready to replace me in 5 minutes. I didn't mean that. Yes, you did. And the fact that you said it, the fact that those words came out of your mouth directed at your husband of 23 years, tells me everything I need to know about what you really think of me. I walked to the door, then paused. Sarah, I want you to do something for me. I want you to imagine that the situation was reversed. Imagine that my brother moved in with us and started telling me that you were a terrible wife. Imagine that he convinced me you were manipulative and selfish and that I deserved better. Imagine that I sent you a text message saying I could replace you in 5 minutes. Sarah's face crumpled. Now imagine that when you tried to defend yourself, I told you that you were being dramatic and unreasonable. Imagine that I sat there while my brother called you names and questioned your worth as a wife. How would you feel? I would be devastated. Would you forgive me? I don't know. Would you trust me again? I don't know. Would you believe me if I said I was sorry and promised to do better? Maybe, eventually. How long would it take? Sarah was quiet for a long time. Years, if ever. That's what I'm dealing with, Sarah. That's the damage you've done to our relationship. And the worst part is, you did it for Jessica. You destroyed your marriage to protect someone who's never done anything but take from you. I opened the door, then looked back one last time. The house will sell in about 6 weeks. You can stay here until then, but I won't be coming back. If you want to try to work things out, we'll have to start over somewhere else, as different people. The husband you took for granted and the wife who thought she could replace him, those people are gone forever. I left her sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by bills she couldn't pay and the wreckage of a marriage she'd destroyed for someone who'd already abandoned her. Over the next month, I threw myself into work and started looking for a permanent place to live. I found a downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the river. It was modern, clean, and nothing like the suburban house I'd shared with Sarah. The divorce proceeded smoothly. Sarah didn't contest anything, which surprised Patricia. Most people fight over every asset, she told me. Your wife seems genuinely remorseful. Remorse doesn't undo 23 years of damage, I replied. The house sold quickly in the hot market. After paying off the mortgage and splitting the proceeds, Sarah walked away with enough money for a down payment on a small condo. I got the majority of our retirement accounts and investments, plus my freedom. On the day the divorce was finalized, Sarah called me one last time. David, it's done. We're officially divorced. I know, Patricia called me. How do you feel? Relieved. How about you? Empty, lost, like I threw away the best thing in my life for someone who didn't deserve it. Jessica? She hasn't spoken to me since she moved out. I called her last week to tell her about the divorce, and she said I was weak for not standing up to you. I'm sorry. Are you? I'm sorry that you're hurting. I'm sorry that your sister turned out to be exactly what I always said she was. But I'm not sorry about the divorce. You did me a favor, Sarah. You showed me who you really are when the pressure was on. I know you don't believe this, but I really did love you. I believe you loved the idea of me. You loved having a stable, reliable husband who provided for you and never caused drama. But you didn't love me enough to fight for me when it mattered. I know. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Maybe. Or maybe you'll meet someone else and convince yourself that I was the problem all along. Either way, it's not my concern anymore. David? Yeah? For what it's worth, you were right about Jessica, about everything. I know. And for what it's worth, you weren't replaceable, not even close. I hung up and poured myself a glass of wine. Outside my condo windows, the city lights reflected off the river like fallen stars. I was 41 years old, divorced, and starting over. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike. Drinks tonight? Karen wants to introduce you to her friend Lisa. I typed back, rain check. I'm enjoying being irreplaceable. 3 months later, I took the promotion I'd turned down years earlier. It meant traveling, but I didn't have anyone to come home to anymore. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sarah had accused me of being a coward for not taking the job, but it was her betrayal that finally gave me the freedom to accept it. I heard through mutual friends that Sarah was working full-time at a fitness center and living in a one-bedroom apartment across town. Jessica had moved to Arizona and gotten married for the 4th time. Neither of them had tried to contact me. Sometimes, late at night in hotel rooms across the country, I wondered if I'd been too harsh, if I should have given Sarah another chance. But then I'd remember the look on her face when she told me I was replaceable, the way she'd sat silently while Jessica tore me down, the casual cruelty of throwing away 23 years of marriage for someone who'd abandoned her the moment things got difficult. No, I'd made the right choice. Some bridges are meant to be burned. I was in Denver on a business trip when I got the call from Mike. Sarah had been in a car accident. Nothing serious, but she was in the hospital with a broken arm and concussion. She asked me to call you, Mike said. She doesn't have anyone else. What about Jessica? Still in Arizona. Still not speaking to her. I stared out my hotel window at the Rocky Mountains. I'm not her emergency contact anymore, Mike. We're divorced. I know. But she's alone, Dave. Whatever happened between you two, she's alone and scared. That's not my problem. Isn't it? You were married for 23 years. That has to count for something. I closed my eyes. It counted for everything. But she threw it away. Maybe this is your chance to be the bigger person. I was the bigger person for 23 years. I was understanding and accommodating and supportive right up until she told me I was replaceable. There's a limit to how big a person can be, Mike. So that's it? You're just going to let her suffer alone? She's not suffering alone because of me. She's suffering alone because she chose Jessica over her marriage, and Jessica abandoned her the moment it became inconvenient. Those are consequences, not punishment. Mike was quiet for a moment. You've changed, Dave. You used to be more compassionate. I used to be a doormat. There's a difference. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't send flowers or a card. Sarah had made her choice, and now she had to live with it. That's what being an adult means, accepting responsibility for your decisions and their consequences. 6 months later, I was promoted to regional manager. The job came with a substantial raise and a company car. I bought a house in the mountains outside Denver with a deck that overlooked the valley and no neighbors for miles. I was grilling steaks on that deck when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Sarah's number. Hello, Sarah. David, I hope it's okay that I called. What do you need? Nothing, I wanted you to know that I'm doing okay. I have a good job now, managing a fitness center. I bought a little house with a garden. I'm taking care of myself. That's good. I'm glad you're doing well. I heard about your promotion. Congratulations. Thank you. There was a long pause. David, I know this is probably too little, too late, but I want you to know that I understand now. I understand what I threw away, and I understand why you couldn't forgive me. Okay. I've been in therapy for the past year, learning about boundaries and codependency and how to recognize manipulation. I know that doesn't change anything, but I wanted you to know that I'm working on becoming a better person. That's good, Sarah. Everyone deserves to be happy. Even me? Especially you. You just have to learn to make better choices about who you trust and who you let influence you. I know. I've cut Jessica out of my life completely. Changed my number, blocked her on social media, everything. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was necessary. How do you feel about that? Free. Sad, but free. I realize now that she was never really my sister. She was my addiction. I was addicted to trying to save her, to being needed by her, to believing that I could fix her problems. And now? Now I know that I can't save anyone but myself. And I know that the best relationship I ever had was with you, and I destroyed it because I was too broken to recognize what I had. I flipped the stakes and watched the sun set over the mountains. Sarah, why are you telling me this? Because I owed you an apology. A real one, not the desperate bargaining I did when I was trying to get you back. I'm sorry I let Jessica poison me against you. I'm sorry I called you controlling and replaceable. I'm sorry I chose her over you. And I'm sorry it took losing you to realize how wrong I was about everything. I appreciate that. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything from you. I just needed you to know that you were a good husband, and I was a terrible wife, and the failure of our marriage was entirely my fault. It wasn't entirely your fault, Sarah. I could have been more communicative. I could have been more romantic. I could have set boundaries with Jessica years earlier instead of letting the resentment build up. No, David. You were exactly the husband you should have been. You worked hard. You provided for us. You were faithful and kind and patient. I took all of that for granted because I thought it would always be there. I thought you would always be there no matter how badly I treated you. Well, you learned otherwise. I did, and I'm grateful for that lesson, even though it cost me everything that mattered. I sat down in my deck chair and watched the stars come out. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you really think you could have replaced me in 5 minutes? She was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. No, I've been trying to replace you for 2 years, and I can't. I don't think I ever will. You weren't just my husband, David. You were my best friend, my partner, my home, and I threw it all away for someone who never loved me the way you did. Jessica loved you in her own way. No, she didn't. Jessica loved what I could do for her. She loved having someone to bail her out and clean up her messes and validate her victim mentality, but she never loved me. If she had, she wouldn't have tried to destroy my marriage. I'm sorry it took you so long to see that. I'm sorry too. About everything. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, two people who had once shared everything, now connected only by the memory of what used to be. David? Yeah? Are you happy? I looked around at my house, my deck, my view of the mountains. I thought about my job, my freedom, my life without drama or manipulation or walking on eggshells. Yeah, Sarah, I'm happy. Are you? I'm getting there. It's hard, starting over at 41, but I'm learning to be alone without being lonely. I'm learning to make decisions based on what I want instead of what other people expect from me. That's good. That's really good. David. Yeah? Thank you. For what? For showing me what real love looks like. For being patient with me longer than I deserved. And for being strong enough to walk away when I couldn't be the wife you needed. You're welcome. I should let you go. I'm sure you have better things to do than talk to your ex-wife. Sarah? Yeah? Take care of yourself, and don't let anyone else convince you that you're not worth fighting for. I won't. Goodbye, David. Goodbye, Sarah. I hung up and finished my steak under the stars. It was a good life, this new life I'd built from the ashes of my marriage. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. The next morning, I deleted Sarah's number from my phone. Not out of anger or spite, but because some chapters need to end completely before new ones can begin. I was finally, truly free.